Friday. I'm John Lorden. In a huge way. There are many, many news articles being written about his death. And it's kind of interesting because they're coming several months after he died. He passed away. Well, actually, that's the first bit of the mystery. If we do a Google on when did Max Spears die, it comes back with June 2016. When I was reading, some people said it was June, some people said it was July. No one really had a firm date. Other people were just saying he died this past summer. However, I do understand he died, I believe,
soundtrack. Just chatting. Yeah. Soundtrack. Right. The hack. And power split to placement, golden capstone, theory. I'm going to keep going best I can. I don't want you to know. You can research this. On a friends. We were involved. Yeah, you still active, man. Mouth. Yeah, you still active. That makes sense. Yeah, no, yeah. There's other ways I can get information out. Don't you worry. Black magic. Sure.
And they do not want you talking about what he talks about. So we are patrolling the chat room. This evening, he's a lovely man. His name is Max Spears. We're going to discuss MK Ultra energy manipulation for power and much more. Max Spears was born in Canterbury, which is an historic English city which lies in a city of Canterbury, district of Kent, in southeast England. So any of you who are tuning in from the UK, you know where Max Spears is from. like River Store backstage.
He's a lovely man, but his thing is not
in the UK.
We're going to discuss
Superman to create a warrior and a breeder.
Energy, power, and much more.
And time manipulation projects. He has studied M-A-G-I-K mesh. Somebody brought that up on the show the other night, one of my guests. I think it was Hayakawa. So he's studied magic and esoteric thought for 15 years and became conscious of his awareness in these projects after he turned 30 in 2008. Max currently resides in Dallas, Texas, and does what he can as aware of the global propaganda machine.
So he's very important. Magic and esoteric thought.
In regard to the 2000s, so from 1999 up until about 2012, it was extremely chaotic to me. I found out that around the age of 30, come back, and either they wipe out, they will. As an onion, so on one planet, so attached and connected in the highest levels, connected to the Orion group, the Orion star system, Alpha Draconis.
Let's from the beginning. Here, in 2000, you had, like you said, all the started coming in. hear him. What we're dealing with, people, is just to keep you in the loop. We're trying to connect through a cleaner line, and we're unable to hear Max for some strange reason. So, Thomas, if you can get Max back on the phone, we're just probably going to have to continue using the phone for the interview. So, yeah. And everyone, what we were talking about is a really interesting way of being brought up, and as well through the this bloodline that Max was talking about, and these types of rituals. Yes, Max, how you doing? I'm sorry, even though we were connected to you, we still couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to make sure to speak out for you.
Rituals. I appreciate it. So we're going
I had a reasonably, seemingly normal childhood, because there's screen memory and there has to be normalcy going on. Otherwise, the child would make too much of a fuss. I had also a lot of love connected to my. It's just there was on the thing that happened when I was first born is that a line went down. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. A line went down my body. And half of it was red and half of it was yellow. And I remember coming in and taking photos like that. And it was
Thank you, therefore. You the chairs of the evil, because I have sent them to you.
for 5 minutes and it's in the British medical journal. What I was later to find out that was connected to was that my biological father is connected to the Alpha Draco star system. He's one of the albino Dracos. And my mother is from the high dimensional angelic realms. So a split that I had down me is very unusual because I'm carrying most of the DNA of those types of things. This physical body. So it makes me happy. There's an entire knowledge from the higher war that's going on. That's why the little twos in my birthday of 22. Also, the alcoholic, also known as the Joker, or Fool, and tarot card there, the Fool is the major number 72. So I'm resonating with the Fool card, the tarot card, so 0 and 22, which represents the beginning and the end. But if it is, basically that's out and I was supposed to be my the ability to
Oh, that's me. The name was
the Anunnaki from Sumeria, and it's goes back 2,000 years. And so I had the reason I was chosen to this place, I recently get a lot of time, and that's why I chose. A 3-year-old boy. Essentially, what they, quote unquote, they are trying to do is attack the source or attack the creator,
Stop trying to
in
hack
any
me.
possible way or say. So by using sexual tools,
Sure.
I don't know. Bloodlines since the 50s is something called Project Oak. Mother is in my
Correct. But
that they were actually sort of acted in a stage play, and that were placed in there, and they weren't even who they thought they were. When I realized that there was an effect on my life that night, I got attacked out of nowhere at 3 o'clock in the morning by 3 people, and almost got, I was triggered into a child order. I should be into a 6-year-old, because you guys who do this like sex with 6-year-old boys, 5-year-old boys, so they had triggered me to that age. But what they did at this point is they triggered me into a 5-6-year-old altar, and then they beat me. So they were trying to be, I couldn't fight back because I thought I was 5 or 6, so I had to turn to the 5 or 6-year-old. And I was sent to a coma for 3 or 4 days. And when I didn't know what happened while that was going on. I was in a hospital, I didn't know where I was. Then they put me into a 72-hour hold because I was so confused about what was going on. And then after that, I came out, and they had done something to repress memories back down. Because my main goal of this show is because other people come forward and talk about help to go through this trauma, and this can never happen anymore. This has to stop happening. So I thought it was a war. It was unnecessary of myself. Like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? No, I'm not. I realize that I'm not now. So I straightened my out. Gone thinking about it now that you don't have years. There have been numerous attempts in my life. Which is the one. And I can get that back up by people who've been around. I've had black helicopters fall over me. I've had black hair shooting on the other day when I was getting my people up in front of my apartment and take photographs. Me saying, I should go to taking a picture of me. Kind of a comedy at this point. But, so what do they want from me? They either want me to, where I shut up and say that I would work for them and do what they need to do. And if I did that, I would give money and what I wanted. But then, especially, I'm signing my will, my free will away, or I continue to do what I'm doing. Have very little and change the world.
Right, and I appreciate it. I want to interject. Here.
Because when two people communicate, like you and I communicate now, we're not just communicating through the words that we're saying to each other. And the inflections of the voice, in the silence,
Not real.
it's just I have to go with what I believe, and he has to go with what he believes. So I have a lot of memories with Michael as children, and he is an incredibly strong individual, and he has worked very hard himself to get this information out. We've just come in from it from different perspectives. As far as anybody, there's been a couple of other ones.
You know, this whole idea that you've been bred, to be a warrior and a breeder. What's it for? With fighting for the earth, conquering the earth? I mean, who's behind it all? Who's behind the curtain in this? You did mention there are different groups of individuals, but they're all tied in. Illuminati, are secret.
Illuminated ones. It comes from the word Lucifer, like there's the light, somebody who shines the light. So Luciferian, this comes from the Lucifer. And what they've done is through the American Atlantean mystery schools, which was 100,000 years old, 100,000 years old, they kept the true knowledge information from nature of this planet, how it works through shells. And that's itself, if you go, out of that, the concept is you have to following a lead of the picture. And to see the moment where has been very about what's going on. natural form of the human body has 12-strand DNA. And when we have 12-strand DNA, we are completely aware and completely conscious of everything. And what they did is they cut that down just to 2-strand DNA. And that is the from 12 strands to 2 strands. Now, we're all walking around here with 2-strand DNA, and it's no surprise that they call this the planet of amnesia. Well, the reason we have amnesia is because it's so dense down here, and because we're walking around with 2-strand DNA. We're trying to work out everything, but we don't have the tools to do it because they've been taken away. We've been manipulated not to be able to do it. Now, most of the people down here have come down here for the experience of what's about to go on now. The awakening period. We're going through the end of the age of Pisces, which is the Pisces ages. There was the G age, which began around 0 and up to now 2000, 2012, 2015, and opening into the new age of the expansive age, which is kind of like the looking out to the stars age. But the Christian and the Catholic concepts of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and all that manipulation that's gone on to control the masses has to die now. But that was, this has all been made, all the religions essentially, and I don't mean to offend anybody at all, and I would not put any pressure on anybody to believe what they want to believe. I'm just aware that the religions were there and put into place to manipulate human beings through fear, because fear is the greatest way to manipulate anybody. So on the second tier, the Anunnaki is in control. And they are from a planet called Nibiru and Sirius B, actually, and they have their hand on what's going on. But in truth, the Orion group, or the Orion reptilians from the Alpha Draconis star system, are above the Anunnaki. And there is a war going on now, a huge war going on between these two reptilian factions, because the Anunnaki feel they've had control, so this one want to let go of control. And the Orion group are now coming and saying that they want it back. So you've got this war going on between two factions. One is a the Orion group, are shape-shifting reptilians. They're able to hold this form through the satanic rituals that go on. And the Anunnaki are a sort of AI reptilian group too. So they also have a fake flesh on their outside. They're not shapeshifters in the same way, but they are warring against each other.
They're warring against each other off planet, do you think?
No, it's happening on planet. It's happening right here.
It's happening here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that the large number of the increasing large number of global UFO sightings, does this have anything to do with the Anunnaki and the Orion group?
I think that's conditioning, and I think two things there. As the vibration of the planet raises, unable to keep people from not being able to see it anymore. You see, because they've always been there. It's just because of the density of everything, and because of they lock down all the female energy vortex points on the planet by building pyramids and by building standing stones on all the feminine energy points. And when you repress the feminine energy on the planet, you repress the creative force, and thus you don't have your third eye then becomes closed more, and you're not able to see it. Well, as the feminine energy on the planet raises and rises up again, eyes begin to open more, and then you'll have the ability to see things that we couldn't see before.
Right, and may I ask for yourself, have you been able to, for instance, do you have 2-strand DNA? And if you don't, what do you have? And are you able to see things that those of us who have 2-strand DNA cannot see?
I do. I walk around on a daily basis with 2-strand DNA, but then in the astral realm, I'm a natural lucid dreamer, and I can astral project naturally. And at that point, so the my etheric body can leave my physical body, and at that point, I'm working on 12-strand DNA. So I know what it feels like to have 12-strand DNA. What they did to me when I was born is I have extremely high Kundalini energy. And Kundalini energy is the creative force energy, which allows allows things to be manifest in 3D. Anything to be manifest has to be used through Kundalini energy. Now, these reptilians don't have that at all. So what they have to do is they have to filter and steer it from beings who have that kind of high energy. So they're building they're genetic masters. They're genetically building beings with high Kundalini energy, stealing the energy from them, and then creating a world around them with that stolen energy. Now, I remember when I was 3, 4, and 5 years old having orgasms. And at that age, you shouldn't be having those. That shouldn't be happening. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand it. But I had images flash through my head. And then now I know what they were. Now I know that I was having orgasms. And what was actually happening was just a screen memory placed over me. And they were stealing the energy from me. So they were stealing it to create whatever. You can create, if you have enough Kundalini energy from a high vibrational charge, you can create companies, businesses, and that energy can create fame or money or anything like that. These beings don't have an energy center. That's where the vampirical, that's where the vampire concept comes from. Just below the navel is an energy force center. Now these beings come down here without that energy force center, whereas most of us can feed ourselves and create that. So we eat well, we take care of ourselves, that energy center grows, and then we create that way. They don't have it. So they have to set their energy, the tendrils, essentially, out to others, manipulate them emotionally. Fear is the best emotion, anger, fear, any of those things. And when they invoke those emotions, they steal the emotions and put them into themselves. So they feel that and they create that way. Does that make sense, Roxy?
Yes, it does. I mean, I can wrap my mind around what you're actually saying. I just can't wrap my mind around how they're like this. Are they mutated? Is there something wrong with them?
I believe that, okay, so we can go back right to the beginning, and I believe right at the beginning, Source wanted to be able to experience itself in every single possible way. And when Source wanted to experience itself in every possible way, it separated off and split into, certainly in this dimension anyway, it split into dual. And when it split into dual, one half was the opposing side to creation, and one half was the creation side. In truth, they are us. All the reptilians are just a manifestation, a physical manifestation of our own fears. And we're trying to, if you hate them, you're going to give them more power. If you understand, it's the Carl Jung concept of the id, or the shadow, and embracing the shadow and understanding it, integrating it back into self will be the way to heal, rather than to go to war with it. Because in truth, whatever you fight, you become.
This is very true, and thanks so much for saying that, because my next question was going to be, I do a lot of work with people all over the world. I get to meet people, is what I'm saying. And I think you're seeing this, I'm seeing this, many of my colleagues are seeing this. There seems to be that split that you're talking about. I do see, for the most part, Max, a lot of people coming together, a lot of people really trying to do something about this, and it really makes sense when you express it in the two-strand DNA manner of we're doing a pretty good job here for as much of our memory as they've taken away from us. So I think we're all doing such a great job. And what we're doing, when I say we, I mean humanity. Okay, so we are waking each other up. There's something that's happening that's sort of like what happened to you, Max. It's like something jogged the memory, something triggered the memory. So is it possible, and I'm getting goosebumps when I'm saying this, is it possible that what we are doing is triggering each other to remember who we are?
Yes. That is exactly what we're doing, because in truth, the human race is just one thing, splintered into many other pieces of consciousness. It's just one thing. And so we are triggering each other to wake up from the slumber that we've been in for about 100,000 years. And the 100 monkey syndrome does work. which is the concept of when 100 people know something, all of a sudden, spontaneously, somebody else knows it without even knowing why they know it. So spreading this information does actually work that way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really come up quite often. It's coming up with every guest now, so it's fabulous. Just when I think the show is going to go one way, it goes right here where you're at right now. So every show, so it's fabulous. With this in mind, out there in the world, I have noticed that there are a peculiar few, and it's getting to be just a few that really stand out as being afflicted and dark and really destructive. What is happening to these types of people, in your opinion? Why are they like this?
I think you have a lot now, a lot of people walking around that you see on the streets and on television are actually now clones and empty vessels. They are essentially remotely influenced and remotely controlled beings. They don't have, I can now at this point, all you have to, the eyes tell you everything about somebody. If you look at the eyes, a lot of these people have non-reflective eyes. They don't reflect the light. That's indicative of a being that is being controlled. So they're AI. They're artificially intelligent, and they are controlled like a hive mind. They're invoking emotional energy reactions from people, and then feeding that energy back to a queen bee somewhere. Now, actually, the Queen of England, she actually works like that. She has a lot of people working for her out there who are in different countries that will invoke huge emotional reactions, and then that energy will be brought back to her and her people. So at this point, I think we're looking at 30 or 40% of the people on this planet are empty vessels. And not even there. I don't believe there are 7 billion people on the planet either. I think there are a lot less than that.
Do you really?
Yes, I think that's a false figure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Wow! I've never heard anybody say that. Interesting. And unless I could go around the world and count them one by one, how would we prove any differently? Very interesting that you say that. So, how many people do you think or surmise that there are on the planet?
I'm close to close to 1 billion.
Really?
Yes.
Now, why would they have us believe? Why would they have us believe that there's over 7 billion people on the planet right now?
Because it makes everybody think that we're all more crushed in than we really are. It makes more confusion and more chaos, and makes people think, something has to be done. Go ahead.
That's interesting, Max. Real brief.
Yeah.
I was doing, what is it? China has 2.5 billion people, and the United States is roughly at 310 million people, which is only a third of 1 billion people. And but did you know? You probably know this already.
Stops. Now they're also saying that China is going to become more powerful, and what a better way of doing it than saying, look at the size of their army.
Well, and I don't know if the listening audience realizes that China is the biggest army, on land, foot, men.
Yeah.
They are 25% of the world's population. What's interesting about that, China, 25% of the world's population lives in China. Wow, that's pretty crazy, so to speak, because you're actually debating that with me at the moment. And the other part is that coming from the U.S., I don't know if people realize this as well, that the U.S. military funding is bigger than all other militaries put together of the world. So I don't know if that's true. It's been stated. So
I think that's part of the soap opera drama that they do, and I don't pay too much attention to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to go back real quickly to what I was saying about the split, about the Harlequin thing that I had going on, which is the split that I had down the middle. What that allows me to access the higher and lower dimensions at the same time, which is very unusual, but it means that I can go either way, and I have the option to go either way. I think all of us at some point have worked for the dark side. If we're here now, we at some point in some lifetime, we've worked for the dark side to further the agenda, to further the grand architect. The grand architecture is when everything is finally done, the capstone will be placed on top of the pyramid, and that's why when you look at the dollar bill, it's not quite sitting on there yet. It's just slightly above. When the New World Order is all put together, that capstone will be placed on, and that will be the end. That'll be the final thing. We've all at some point worked consciously or unconsciously for that agenda in other lifetimes, and this lifetime that I have been given a choice to go either way, a very definitive and a very defined choice to go either way. And I've had deals and offers made to me. So to say, look, if you come with if you come this way and you do this, if you sell this person out, if you do this, you can have whatever you want. And it's been clearly told to me that. And so I have a very clear, I feel both of these energy bodies in my physical body at one time. I'm aware of both of them. I hear them there. This is outside the numerous altars that I have from the trauma. My actual energy body is of two souls within one body. Does that make sense? Do you understand that?
Yes, it does. I have a question about that. The polarity that we all have, left and right, is humans. Wouldn't you, in all fairness, say that we all go through that, though? We're all pulled to do something not so nice over something that's really loving. And we're pulled in both directions as far as, just life choices constantly, which can feel like we are being occupied, if you will, by two different types of personalities or spirits, one being a very negative and one being a very positive, loving. What would, you know what I'm saying?
We were built that way. We were built, when the Anunnaki built this species, they use reptilian DNA as the base, and then they use mammalian DNA over the top of it. When a child is in the womb, it goes through stages. And one of the stages it goes through is it looks exactly like a reptile. And then it goes through looking like a fish, and then it goes through looking like a mammal. So every human being has that. Has that separate split of DNA, and that is actually the two-strand DNA that we're talking about, reptilian and mammalian. What I'm talking about is literally two different entities sharing the same body.
Okay.
I'm talking about an albino Draco reptilian and an angelic being, an inner angelic being in the same body at the same time.
And no disrespect intended on this next one, but can you pick one of them out?
What do you mean?
Well, you've got two different beings occupying one vehicle, your body. Can you get rid of one of the beings?
No, because they're integrated to me. And the whole point of my lesson here is to accept and understand why that's happened to me in the first place, and to integrate what, quote unquote, the negative being is into me and accept it. And I think that's what that's gone back to what I was saying earlier, that any of these negative things, these negative forces that are here, are a physical manifestation of the fears that human beings have. When we were separated away from Source, the further we got away from Source, the more frightened we got. We sort of started whistling in the dark to keep ourselves occupied and not so frightened. And when we did that, the fear, every time we get terrified of something, that then manifests into a situation. And when a collective en masse people get terrified, when there's a war, or when the 9/11 thing happened, and there was all that fear in one go, that manifests into a physical form. That's how you create the reality of a manifest physical being, negative physical being. And when we accept that is the case, and we accept that they are just parts of our own self, which is our fear, then they cease to exist anymore.
Is that part of our normal evolution, do you think?
There's nothing normal about what's gone on this planet. It was an experiment. This was supposed to be a human experiment, and it's failed. The human experiment has failed. It hasn't worked out. But that was part of what we were supposed to do. Yeah, we were supposed to. There's been so much intervention on this planet and messing around. So many universal rules have been broken. They come in, you're not supposed to mess around with an evolving species, and they come in so many different ones that mess with us, that the experiment has failed. So something has to change, and something has to go on and be different now. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, Rosie. I don't know.
Understood. And I was going to ask you, the only thing that I can say into what you're talking about is really shocking thing with Max Spears, our guest. And, he just really sort of let us know of some very alarming information. It actually makes sense, Max. The whole idea that you have mentioned and so eloquently and so accurately. I have a question about something you were speaking about a little bit earlier, and then we'll go into Montauk. But the AI, as you referred to AI, artificial intelligence, the planet seems to be really getting hammered by artificial. We're having, we've got computers and we have, artificial, should I say, virtual reality sort of methods of meeting people and socialization. We've got artificial weather, artificial food, artificial television, intelligence and media, and all the rest. I mean, everything seems to be going towards artificial. Who's doing that?
I think that, okay, so if you look at this reptilian species as an artificial intelligence species, they're trying to make us as much like them as possible. Think of how many millions of people are Googling something on a daily basis. Those questions that are going through is filtering through a huge supercomputer. And then that is beginning to understand. Like also with music, there's all these Facebook music apps now. So they learn what music you like. They learn everything about you. So this computer now is understanding exactly how we think and when we're going to think it. And so that transhumanism plays a big part in this. They think that the human beings are inefficient, too emotional, and are not working out as a proper efficient species. So they want to integrate artificial intelligence into the human body to make it a better worker race. They want to have androgyny. They want to have it so that it's neither male nor female, because that the splice between the two is less efficient. These reptilian beings, these Orion reptilian beings, are androgynous, so they feel that they are better than we are. And so they're the ones who are doing it, essentially. That's why I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes or anything, and I'm not against homosexuality or anything like that, but there is an agenda behind it. There is an agenda. There is something being pushed here, because they are trying to break down the male too. When you try and take over a species, you destroy the male first because that is the war inside of it, and they try to destroy the family unit from the center outwards, and then just
But go ahead, Max.
This is on the precipice of death and rebirth point. So there has to be the death of the idea of the old way of thinking. The old way of thinking, which is the Piscean and the Christian doctrine that we've been Christians, and that they will find a way to crush that thought and then push the transhumanism agenda. I don't know if they're going to get away with it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really don't know, but that's the plan. That's the agenda. To cull the population down, which I believe is a lot less than they say it is, cull the population down to have a one world army, a one world religion, which is based on Satanism. Satanism is to serve itself. Satanism is to serve oneself in all base places, in every base pleasure available. And that was the plan, and to have tiny elites control all of that, and then the masses to be serving them. And once again, the Egyptian society to them was the perfect way, was the perfect setup, because they had the pharaohs and the rest worked. So they want to try and base it on that again.
Real quick questions here. The capstone and the pyramid you mentioned, the gold capstone.
Yeah.
I clearly remember the gatherings all over the planet during the whole 90s. We were so excited to go to the Great Pyramid of Giza to watch the gold capstone be reunited with her in 2000, when we turned from 1999 to 2000, and then it didn't happen. What happened?
Yeah. Okay, I think that there has been some setbacks in there, because they make mistakes in their agenda, and I think that there's been some setbacks. And I think that there, from inside these factions, there has been some people and some certain consciousness that have stopped, that have seen the mass torture that humanity has gone through, and are trying to delay the agenda. And actually, I think it was in August of 1999, I was in the UK, and there was a full solar eclipse. And I remember that when that happened. And on that solar eclipse, something happened in the Giza Pyramid, the central Giza Pyramid. And when people were going around looking at it, they fenced it off for a 10-minute period, and a ritual went on inside of there. And I'm not sure what went on. They have all these calendar dates where they do all their things. The two most powerful days are the winter and summer solstice. And interesting enough, my sister is born on the summer solstice, and I'm born on the winter solstice. So those key dates are always done and used for measure satanic rituals. I mean, there's a lot of other information we probably don't have time to go into now, but the connection to Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and the moon trial ritual that was done in the late 40s, which they were trying to introduce, trying to birth through a ritual, a negative, as high a negative being into a body as possible, and bring that forth as like an antichrist type being. And something did happen there. I'm not exactly sure what it is, and it's connected to the Bush family, and it seems like Father George Bush is behind a lot of this stuff that's gone on. I think that he is behind a lot of the Project Mannequin and the American version of Project Mannequin is Project Talent, and the Project Ibis is directly connected to George Bush. And I think he placed his DNA into the 42 children that were involved in Project Ibis. And they've been tracking these 42 children for their whole lives. Because each one of these 42 children has blood prime. And they're looking for a specific entity. They were looking for one specific entity within these 42 kids who would be able to take a certain role at the time we're in now. I'm glad we've gone off track. I was just kind of speaking.
Oh, no, not at all. It's all fascinating, actually. I'll definitely have you back to, another time. You're part of the Truth Tonight and Revolution Radio family now, so, we can talk about other things another time. But fascinating stuff. Can we ever get our 12-strand DNA back?
They can't stop it anymore. And we're slowly over the next. There's actually, interesting enough, there's a lot of people from because Mars used to be a bustling, beautiful planet. It used to be an incredible planet where a lot was going on. And the Alpha Draconis did to Mars what they're doing to this planet. They've done it to many other planets. They're trying to link up. They turn each planet into a prison planet. That's how they think. They're total and not 100% predators. So and the most beautiful of all, the gem of this corner of the galaxy is Earth. So they can link up and turn this planet into a prison planet as well, and link it up to all the other ones. They've got this kind of giant prison of like 10, 12, 15 planets all linked together. Now, there are a lot of people on this planet now who were from Mars at that time. Now, the redheads on this planet are indicative of the Mars beings. So when you see that bright red hair, those beings are Mars, from Mars, have high Martian DNA.
And were the Martians cool people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to look at it that they're good and bad. The planet itself is a warring planet.
Yes.
But there was totally some incredibly beautiful people there. Yes. Yeah.
Many believe that what we're doing now, in regards to the 12-strand DNA, many people actually believe that we are activating and we are, opening up.
Yeah, it's coming back again. Yeah. And as those abilities come back, that's the 12-strand kind of adding back on again. Like I notice it more and more and more. And when we're at 12 strands, they really don't have a chance anymore.
Okay.
They are desperately trying to stop. The ascension process is really symbolic of us gaining 12 strands back. It's just one and the same thing.
You say the number 12 is the number of the master.
The first master number is 11. The second master number is 22, and the third is 33. 12 means the end. 12 is the ending.
Okay.
So what 12 is it's the most that, well, I don't know if that's true. I was going to say it's the most that a human being can hold, but I've actually heard that a human being can hold.
Right.
What it is there are 12 predominant species in this corner of the galaxy. Feline species, human species, AIs, crystalline species, elementals, insects, orb-type beings, and there are 12 different types. 12 different core species. Now, if we had 12-strand DNA, we'd be able to incorporate all the consciousness of all those beings into the human body. And so we would have complete understanding of how it works on a collective, grand scheme level. Now, that by us separating it down so we only have two, which are the warring two, because reptiles and mammals just don't get along at all, and placing it within one body, we're all always at odds within ourselves.
Yeah, right.
With each other.
Right. That's what we're projecting outwards.
Yeah.
The war that's inside. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes absolute sense. It makes sense that we're so schizophrenic.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Understood.
Yeah. And some people have higher reptilian DNA, you know, and some people don't. And what the Iris Project was looking for people with royal Anunnaki DNA coming from the Enki and Enlil bloodline, which is the first ones, which is back to the symbolic Garden of Eden. And that was what each one of the 42 kids connected to Iris had. And that's what they were looking for. A lot of those children were actually killed when there was an escape attempt happened in 1979. I wasn't killed, obviously I'm still here, but a lot of them were, and the rest of them are being tracked and have been tracked. I've been tracked my whole life. I had a homing beacon removed from my molar tooth in 2010. So
Kind of like a test thing?
Yeah, it was an etheric one. I actually implanted myself in Atlanta, at the end of the Atlantean time, so that at this point in time now, I would remember the things that I remember.
Gotcha. It's fascinating. The Montauk time manipulation project, what was your relationship to that? Because that's another whole fascinating topic. A few minutes left.
Yeah. Base where they were messing around with time to see if they could go back in time or mess with certain events and then see how that
Go
would
and
happen
do
and
one,
how
you
it would
big
react
old
to
spicy
present time events.
demons.
That we use for this because something about the expressive, explosive energy of the male that works, whereas the female energy is hidden and was inside. The male sexual energy was pushed out and projected out, and they needed to give his voice for that. So they bring the male to a certain level of sexual excitement, and then these males are picked specifically for their specific DNA and PSI abilities, and then they were testing them out. Now, a lot of these young boys got shot out into and put into other timelines and bodies, and they have no clue what's happened. They don't know where they are or what's gone on. And they're walking around thinking, having no clue about what their life is or what's happened to them. And a lot of them end up in mental institutions. A lot of them end up as bums on the street. When you see a bum on the street and he's sitting there and he looks like crap and he's been drinking, a lot of these guys are the fallout from the mess-ups of the Montauk experiments.
Wow. And how many, I mean, as far as with Montauk, I mean, how many?
About 100,000.
Really?
About 100, over the period of about 25 years, 20 years, they used about 100,000 boys. And this fellow has fascinating, extremely accurate information on that. And I remember Stuart from connections to that.
Wow.
Alistair Crowley was directly connected to the Montauk experiment too. He was working on that as well. Yeah, I know. Not many people know that, but he was directly involved in it.
I'm definitely aware. We have a question from the chat room that came in at the very beginning of the show, actually. In altered states, the person is saying that in altered states that they've met up with Obama, who seems to be in a small room with a few guards and seems concerned with the info that this person is writing relates to him, the person that's chatting in the chat room. Is the real Obama being held against his will, and the world is seeing his clone?
The strangest thing is, I have had recently, over the last 2 months, 3 or 4 or 5 different dreams with Obama in it. And he is there talking to me and giving me information about jump rooms, about Mars jump rooms. Now, I never knew anything about that before. Like 6 months ago, I never even thought of it. Never even thought of it. And he's there sitting cross-legged, kind of in a meditative position, and he's telling me about these red jump rooms to Mars. And the Obama that we're seeing on TV now is not the real man. That guy was taken off a long time ago. This is a clone that we're seeing.
Okay. And you know, I've heard that a lot, and a lot of people even say the energetics, you know, say a lot about an individual, and that his energetics, what he exudes from himself, are completely different now. I have no comment on that whatsoever, but as far as the jump room goes, I've definitely, for the last couple of years, I've interviewed Andrew Bishago, who also claims he was part of the Mars jump room program as a child, and says that Obama, he was with them, so in that mission. So it's quite interesting, more will be revealed. That's all I can say. And then I just want to let you know that there's a gal that says, "Hi, Max, Cindy Brewer here. You go, Max. Speak your mind uninhibited."
Well, that's very kind, Cindy. Thank you very much.
She's in the chat room, obviously, listening. So you have a lot of support for what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. You will always get support. You know, like I say, you know, it's courage. And for you, it's kind of sad, Max, because if you choose to come forward and reveal to the world the secrets, the unseen, they track you down in black vehicles, or the men in black, or try to hurt you or make you fearful of them or threaten your life. If you don't do anything, they hire you to threaten other people's lives. So you kind of know, right?
This interview I just had with you, I've had, there's been 2 or 3 different attacks with sound weapons through the top of my apartment building. They used sound harmonics to try and shut down my throat chakra. And they had done that 2 or 3 different times just in the last couple of hours we've been talking.
Yes, and I am aware of that is happening. And I'm sorry that they're doing that, and I want to thank you for being able to proceed through the show, because you did really well, Max. You've made it all the way. We probably have another minute or 2 at the most, and so you actually succeeded in something that doesn't happen too often around here. We usually get our show interrupted. I can't hear you. You can't hear me. And it's great. So we got through it, which means there are a lot of people thinking about you in high spirits, including myself and everyone here at Revolution Radio. So, you know, it seems like this is a safe place for you to tell the truth.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot more to tell that I could go into about my story. I just wanted to give an overview of where I'm coming from consciously right now this time. But maybe another time I'll go into, you know, exactly more about, you know, what actually happened to me. Because I do, you know, I have those memories. I just wanted to give you an overview, Roxy, of where I stand on things at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And we will definitely have you back, Max, and we can get more, you know, now that you've been introduced to my audience and, you know, gave you an overall view of where you've been, then we can start looking into very current things and your interactions with them and get a little bit more detailed about your life, you know.
Yes. And I'm working on deprogramming at the moment because I have a lot of, you know, there's still, this is the amount of MK that I went through. There is still layers and layers and layers that are involved there, there's they have levels and gatekeepers. When I get to a certain level of information, I start touching on something that I'm not supposed to touch on. There are literally gatekeepers there, which block and pull the thought of the memory from my head, so it doesn't allow me to go any further. So I'm working on doing some deprogramming, and I was actually going to work with Stuart Swerdlow to do some deprogramming. So this is where I'm at right now.
Excellent. Max, you have a lot of support. Again, we just got another one saying, Max, this was an incredible interview. Please come back soon. So they love you. The audience loves you, Max.
Well, thank you, Roxy. Thanks for the opportunity.
And Karen, and then we got another one. Karen says, Roxy, thank Max for coming forward. So you just see, you're just getting the love, Max. You're getting everybody just embracing what you're saying. You don't have any troublemakers, and people appreciate and recognize what you're doing, Max. So you have a home here. You're always welcome to come back. I can't wait till the next time you come back. Looks like the audience can't wait either. You did really excellent. I really do not think you're going to have any more problems this evening, and with anything. And the interview, you've done fabulous service to humanity. One last question, and then we're just going to probably split right off here into the next show. Somebody is asking if you are a clone.
No, I'm not a clone. No,
Okay.
I was genetically put together, but I was carried inside a woman, inside of my mother, inside of my carrier. So no, I'm not a clone. No. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to
That's
make sure
okay.
I speak up when you can hear me clearly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, go ahead and continue where you break.
Okay, where was I? I can tell you. So on the surface as well, I had a reasonably, seemingly normal childhood because there's three memories and there has to be normal stuff going on. Otherwise, the child would make too much of a fuss. And I had also a lot of love connected with my family as well. It's just there was a split side of that went on that was something completely different that was hidden from me. Now, another thing that happened when I was first born is that a line went down. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. A line went down the center of my body, and half of me turned red and half of me turned yellow. And I remember people coming in and taking photographs of that, and they called it the Harlequin effect, which is different to a Harlequin baby, but they called it the Harlequin effect. And it lasted about 5 minutes, and it's in the British Medical Journal. Now, what I was later to find out that was connected to was that my biological father is connected to the Alpha Draco star system. He's one of the albino Dracos. And my mother is from the higher dimensional angelic realms. So the split that I had down me is very unusual because I'm carrying both the DNA of both those types of things within this physical body. So it makes me have, there's an internal struggle and internal war that I have going on. That's why there's all the twos in my birthday, 1222. A Harlequin is also known as the Joker or the Fool. And in the tarot card deck, the Fool is the major arcana card number 22. So I'm resonating with the Fool card in the tarot card deck, which is also 0 and 22, which represents the beginning and the end. So what it is half of my life was basically blacked out from me, and I was consciously unaware of one other half. In my name is actually encoded as well. So my name is Maxwell Spears, and it's what it's saying. So Max, the word Max means extreme. Well, which is leads into the ground, so it leads to the lower, more dense dimensions, and spears, which comes from the word spiral, which leads up. So it gives me the ability to walk down through the lower frequencies or go up through the higher frequencies.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that's obviously the name was on purpose.
Yes. My two middle names are just connected to my actual name there. Yeah, it's an encoded name.
So did you said, stand up a little bit before we really get into other even darker sides of this. You mentioned that you did have a loving family. Throughout the years or after 2008, when you awoke to these images and connecting the dots type of ordeal, have you spoken to your mother or your father or any other family members about this?
I've spoken to my mother, and I've tried. My mother's been supportive to a certain level, but some of this stuff, she was kind of heavily into the occult. I was actually brought up around the occult and understanding. I had a pretty deep understanding of the occult from when I was very young.
Can you tell us what cult, the occult, exactly what genre of the occult, and what are
okay. Yeah. So the word occult, anyway, the true meaning of the word occult, it just means hidden. So anything that's hidden from the conscious mind. The occult generally deals with the subconscious. Now, if I just break that down for you really quickly, the conscious mind is the seen as the above ground, the subconscious is the underground. The male energy would be conscious, seen. Female energy would be subconscious. So most of the occult is run through feminine, the divine feminine, or it can be dark or light, but it's the feminine energy force. I learned, I was a natural astrologer. I naturally understood archetypes, so I picked up on the dark card readings very easily. I understood the theory and understanding of the concepts of magic with a K. They put Aleister Crowley put the K on the end of magic to define it as different from the magic with a C, which is more of conjurers. So the K was added on the end. Also, K is the most powerful letter of the alphabet. It's the number 11, and in Egyptian symbology, K is the symbol for the serpent. So the K was added on there for that reason. So I was always interested in magic from very young, from 11, 12. I think so that was already connected into me on a cellular level. I have memories of other lives in this body still, but I have memories of other lives being and working as a magician.
Okay, and fair enough. And so it sounds like you came into this lifetime with quite a bit conscious already. Certain aspects of your life were very conscious by a young age. And then your parents being involved in the cult. Could you even just describe, was it just a belief system? Did you go somewhere and do rituals? Was it a Bohemian Grove type of relationship where you have many of your relatives there, or friends and family, and very private and hush from the public? Exactly what type of occult upbringing did you have?
So I guess that you could call it a basic pagan understanding, where I was taught by my mother that it was the earth and the trees and just the elements were working in conjunction with life, and that was life force. And I think that there was other things going on, but I think that when rituals went on, I can feel like an emotional thing happening now. When rituals went on, I was triggered, and so that I didn't have any memory of it. So on the surface, this was very light-hearted and not at all dark. But I know that my mother was. I was born into a multi-generational satanic family. This has been going on generation after generation after generation. It's just kept quiet. This is how it works. You don't just get random. This is not just the beginning. I was not the beginning of this. I believe that I was my consciousness and my energy field, my energy signature was sold hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and was planned. This was planned to happen at this point already. So yeah. So this is multi-generational. It's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, and even before Charlemagne. Charlemagne is just one of the offshoots of the tribe of Dan. I'm a descendant of the tribe of Dan. And before Charlemagne, you had the Spartans, and before that, the Roman Empire, and connected to the Anunnaki from Sumeria, and it goes back 50,000 years before that. And so the reason I was chosen for this project is because I have an Anunnaki DNA, which is what they call blood prime. And I have rhesus negative blood prime, and that's why they chose me for this project. It allows higher parts of oxygen to run through my blood, so it allows faster thinking, faster reactions, and faster muscle growth and building.
Okay. And what is the project you're referring to? Why you were chosen for the project? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. What I think was my grandfather, the father of my mother, was captured by the Japanese right at the beginning of World War II, and he spent the entire Second World War in the Japanese prisoner of war camp. And when he was in there, he was being completely programmed. Yeah. So as to when he became a pretty famous actor, but when he came out, there was extreme programming done to my mother and her sister. This has a lot to do with sexual stuff, because I had a lot of sexual abuse in my history, because when the sexual abuse is one of the main easiest ways to split the personality. It's cool. I don't know how graphic you want me to go into that, but when a little boy of 3, it has to be 3 years old. So a little boy of 3 years old, which happened to me, is raped. There's something that happens called vasovagal shock, where the energy then shoots from the base of the spine up to the top of the spine and the back of the neck, and then explodes into the head and creates a honeycomb. And then like a honeycomb of altars. And then if the person knows what they're doing, they can then program each one of those altars. Well, this happened also to my mother and her sister as well. I've never said this before, and I try and avoid talking about that. There's just too much, but it's a fact that did happen. And they were both involved in rituals as well. So they were then programmed to program me. And the same thing happened. And this was continuous. It was continuous. My memories came back in 2008. I remember the types of tortures that were going on, and they always involved sexual abuse. Because what they see as a 3-year-old boy, the innocence in a 3-year-old boy, essentially what they, quote unquote, they are trying to do is attack the source or attack the creative force in any possible way they can. So by sexually abusing and torturing little boys, they see that as an attack towards quote unquote God. That's what they're doing. And also in the process, they're creating an undetectable mind control slave, because the best mind control slave is the one that doesn't know he is bad. Project Mannequin was the project that I was born into, basically, which is an NSA MI6 project. What they were trying to do is an extension of the Nazi Superman project, where they were trying to create a perfect soldier or psychic assassin or sleeper agent. And they had been trying this over and over again. They've been tracing bloodlines since the 50s with something called Project Oak Tree. So since the 50s, they were following bloodlines. My mother was born in 1952, so they followed her bloodline, and my father was born in 1954. They remotely influenced them to get together because they needed the combined DNA of those two. My mother is blonde blue. My father is dark-haired, green-eyed, Celtic, although they both do stem from French. But they needed those two bloodlines to come together to create me, and there was the split.
Correct. And I can hear the tension in your voice, too, when you describe some of the abuse, because I can't even imagine the level of abuse, especially if a lot of it, as you described earlier, the conscious and the subconscious. And when something's happened on the subconscious and it's not conscious, it's like that's what therapy and psychologists, that's why they were invented, to dig into that subconscious and bring it to the conscious for people who go crazy. And so I can't even imagine what it's like to have all of this going down on the underlying deep subconscious levels, but then in your conscious life, you're sounds like completely unaware and just being a child and going with the flow, and what you're raised to become. Right? Okay. So
I was then sent to private school. I was sent to private boarding schools when I turned 8 or 9. A lot of the British private...
Max, was this to alienate you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I was sent to the private boarding schools, and I was sent to a pretty prestigious private boarding school also, because these private schools are also pre-programming. Like the private schools and the upper echelon universities also continue the programming. So they also, this is all set out. This is basically, I have had a basically scripted life, this one. I mean, there are flags, symbolic flags that I get to, and I can make different choices to get to each flag. But basically, this lifetime has been scripted out. And so they already know what's going on. They have technology called Project Looking Glass. And if they put my energy signature into this technology when I was born, and they can have a basic 99% overview of what's going to happen in my life, who's going to be there. They also know in my past lives, incarnations, things that have happened. They know exactly who to put in my way in bloodlines since the 50s with something called Project Oak Tree. So since the 50s, they were following bloodlines. My mother was born in 1952. So they followed her bloodline, and my father was born in 1954. They remotely influenced them to get together because they needed the combined DNA of those two. My mother is blonde blue. My father is dark-haired, green-eyed, Celtic. Although they both do stem.
Was it just a belief system? Did you go somewhere and do rituals? Was it a Bohemian Grove type of relationship where you have many of your
the Japanese right at the beginning of World War II, and he spent the entire Second World War in a Japanese prisoner of war camp called Changi Jail. And when he was in there, he was being completely programmed. So as to when he actually became a pretty famous actor. But when he came out, there was extreme programming done to my mom and her sister. This had a lot to do with sexual stuff, as I had a lot of sexual abuse in my history, because when the sexual abuse is one of the main easiest ways to split the personality. It's cool. I don't know how graphic you want me to go into that, but when a little boy of 3, it has to be of 3 years old. So a little boy of 3 years old, which happened to me, is raped. There's something that happens called vasovagal shock, where the energy then shoots from the base of the spine up to the top of the spine and the back of the neck, and then explodes into the head and creates a honeycomb. And then like a honeycomb of altars. And then if the person knows what they're doing, they can then program each one of those altars. Well, this happened also to my mother and her sister as well. I've never said this before, and I try and avoid talking about that. There's just too much, but it's a fact that did happen, and they were both involved in rituals as well. So they were then programmed to program me. And the same thing happened. And this was continuous. It was continuous. My memories came back in 2008. I remember the types of tortures that were going on. They always involved sexual abuse. Because what they see as a 3-year-old boy, the innocence in a 3-year-old boy, essentially what they, quote unquote, they are trying to do is attack the source or attack the creative force in any possible way they can. So by sexually abusing and torturing little boys, they see that as an attack towards quote-unquote God. That's what they're doing. And also in the process, they're creating undetectable mind control slaves, because the best mind control slave is the one that doesn't know he is bad. Project Mannequin was the project that I was born into, basically, which is an NSA MI6 project. What they were trying to do is an extension of the Nazi Superman project, where they were trying to create a perfect soldier or psychic assassin or sleeper agent. And they had been trying this over and over again. They've been tracing bloodlines since the 50s with something called Project Oak Tree. So since the 50s, they were following bloodlines. My mother was born in 1952, so they followed her bloodline, and my father was born in 1954. They remotely influenced them to get together because they needed the combined DNA of those two. My mother is blonde blue. My father is dark-haired, green-eyed, Celtic. Although they both do stem from France. But they needed those two bloodlines to come together, and there was the split.
Correct. And I can hear the tension in your voice, too, when you did some of the abuse, because I can't even imagine the level of abuse, especially if a lot of it, as you described earlier,
Here it is. Manchurian. The Return of the Watchers. And the book reference to what he just said in that radio interview. Fabrication of a high-level operator's intelligence community. One of these men is a member 33 degree of Scion Illuminati. He holds as a MBRA 8-digit levels top security, NSA and DOP Department of Energy security clearances, which only 5 people in the US hold, most in various military bases in Tennessee. And the dated of the article, James Corbolt, 8th to September 2008. I am considered a military genius, other words, not mine, by certain members of intelligence apparatus for my high intelligence accuracy in remote viewing. I have recently completed the RV work for Lincoln, my Illuminati contact under section of British intelligence. My venture intention was set at 2 locations: NSA headquarters, Maryland, USA, underground facility Oak Ridge, North Carolina. Both sessions were confirmed as accurate for Black Ops community mentioned in the level by Lincoln. Other recent RV sessions that received feedback was accurate. Both sessions were confirmed as accurate by Black Ops. A underwater NATO facility off the coast of Corfu in Greece, and another one underground biogenetics facility in Dulce, DULCE, New Mexico. Even with Lincoln's high security clearance, he had always came against a brick wall when attempting to access any Project Mannequin files. The personal details of any of his Manchurian files are so highly classified. All documents classes 8, which means they cannot be accessed on the NSA NASA database, must be collected or read on paper by hand. The operator must have read to know. My files are stored in secure NSA facility Ashbourne in what? NSA facility in Ashbourne in Devon. Ashburton in Devon. For Fort Meade, MEADE in Maryland. And a facility in Utah, USA. My Umbria files are stored at a facility in Amnesia, North Carolina. The remote viewing session for British intelligence was actually the secure vault at Fort Meade, MEADE, where the Class 8 files are stored. The vault contains hardware advanced. It can detect remote viewers entering through tiny fluctuations, FLUCTUNATIONS, in air, and then disable them with electromagnetic scalar waves. That was back 2008. A small amount of my files has been located by NSA operative. When I will refer to syllabus given to me in the British intelligence fiction I am involved with, this man is deeply embedded with Project Manchurian himself, but cannot access over half of my files. The people running the AL 499 facility in Berkshire, England, and the connected underground bases are a hardline military regime that is ultimately a religious cult centered around the corrupt Zionists and, oh my gosh, Roswellian, how to spell it, SICRUCINS. The places are religious centers where so-called black magic rituals are performed, ancient deities worshipped, and children trained and sacrificed. Oh my gosh. A former Illuminati member, Lou Zagami, said, "Black magic," that's spelled Magic, control of the electromagnetic energy for harm. This is the oldest form of military technique known to man. We are told in the mainstream media that children of uncivilized countries such as Burma, Africa, South Africa are forced to join the military and kill for their country. Well, guess what, people? This exact same situation happens right here in the UK and US. You are just not told about it. The situation is slowly changing with people like Cathy O'Brien, Duncan O. Fenton, Andy Petro. There's a couple other people, quote. Others coming forward who were used by their governments for covert operations, trained from a very young age. These people are all from America. However, the situation in this country, that Barry King and I are the only talking survivors of black projects in the UK. I am considered the youngest talking survivor of mind control projects in modern history. To understand Project Manchurian, we must get a basic understanding of the brief system of the people running it. I will not attack the Rosicrucian and Zionists as a whole, because I know many great noble men in the orders who have aided me in my cause to stop the horrors of the program. I count these individuals as my kinsmen. From my understanding, many of the secret religious orders of today, such as the Magi, quotes the Scientons, Third Degree of Zion, the White Lotus Society, etc., are divided into two main fractions. One is loyalty to their beliefs, to the so-called fallen angels. You were loyal to the fallen angels, Lucifer, at the time of the great flood mentioned in the Bible. The Magi Zoroastrians are known as the Muslim Illuminati and have centres in the UK, such as 440 Alexandra Street, Harrow, Middlesex, England. Gives that a phone number and a postcode. There are also Muslim Illuminati centres in Rayniers Lane in London. The Rosicrucian Illuminati have centres in the UK at places such as Francis Bacon Lodge in Peckham, London, and the headquarters, which is at Greenwood Gate, Blackhill, Crowborough, and it gives the location. The White Lotus Society, known as the Chinese Illuminati, has over 250,000 assassins working for them. Bloody hell. Former 32-degree Mason, quote, Benjamin Felford, has been in contact with me and offered me protection by the White Lotus Society if I come to the East. However, this is not viable at present time. Benjamin was threatened by ninjas working for the Western Illuminati when working in Japan, and came under the wing of the white later society because of it. This is now open war between two factions. Google Chinese secret society warns Illuminati's too and standards. The fallen angels were known to Hebrew as IRIN. Let me check to see that again. This goes deep. This is on educatedself.org website, what I'm reading. The fallen angels were known in Hebrew as IRIN, meaning those who watch. This is translated into Greek, the quotes, watchers. Other factions of secret societies base their teachings around more Christian principles. The ancient Book of Enoch. The ancient text includes accounts of the watchers. And many of the early Christian church readers used the work from the 1st to the 3rd centuries AD. During the age of Christ's fathers, from 4th century onward, the Book of Enoch started to become suppressed. This led to the strange decision by St. August AD 354 and 430 century that the Book of Enoch was too old, and it quotes what that is, to be included in Scripture. Rabbi Simon ben Jakang, he worked toward the book being pushed underground when he declared that all are cursed who believe angels are flesh and blood beings that physically came to earth. This is exactly what they are. However, when we know as angels, as extraterrestrial beings, as anyone investigating subjects mentioned in this book is starting to realise. I always think I'll repeat that. We believe angels are flesh and blood into earth. It's exactly what they are. Oh my goodness me. Attacking my throat now. What we know as angels are extraterrestrial beings, as anyone investigating subjects mentioned in the book is starting to realise. Belief in physical angels was declared as hearsay. And the text did go underground and straight into the hands of the secret societies. Benevolent sections of the Illuminati and other secret societies are loyal in their beliefs to the angels of Joshua. No, correction. Yudhehbavheh spelt, which is one of the Hebrew names of God. This is why the real secrets of Freemasonry are taught at the 33-degree level. The Watchers descend from other planets onto Earth in ancient times into Hermon, just north of Dan Kashia in the Middle East. Really? The mountain is on the 33-degree latitude. When you reach the 33 degree of Masonry, you enter the Illuminati degrees, and are taught the secrets of the angels. Conspiracy theorists who say that the Illuminati and Freemasonry are responsible for all evil and corruption in the world do not know what they're talking about. At the same time, I would say that corrupt fractions in these groups are responsible for much of the world's problems. Due to the trials and tribulations to institutions of Project Mannequin make an individual stronger and wiser? The answer is yes. There's no doubt it also leaves the individual involved with a type of bloodlust that is very dangerous. Many people involved in the project have ended up becoming certain things. Won't repeat. Experiencing chronic addictions in certain areas. Many have also developed depression. Children in the project is also unspeakable. Well, my view and many people's views. At this point, I have to ask myself why I was tricked and forced to take part in the high level, and it quotes again, Rocheshurni rituals, such as the third room, now initiation 2006. I will discuss this in more detail, but on complementing this, considering it, I suppose, I have come to the following conclusion. The Illuminatiists will argue that only individuals trained from childhood in certain blood trials, which such levels become more dangerous, can survive the military campaigns they will carry out as adults. They say this is not just a matter of national security for any country, but the survival of the human race. What is so horrific that a soldier must be trained from early childhood to endure? My Lord. The shocking answer is that the Project Manchurian operatives will come face to face sometimes, even in complex situations, with malevolent, terrifying, extra-dimensional life forms. These XENO breeds are so terrifying to witness. The sight of one could kill or drive insane most ordinary man. This may sound laughable to the uneducated civilian, but it's taken deadly serious by those in the highest corridors of power. This happened in the 1960s in the infamous Dulles Battle, DULCE, Mexico. when scientists at the genetics facility were taken hostage by reptilian-like extraterrestrial life forms who had been working with the US underneath the New Mexico desert. The Special Forces teams who went in for the attempt rescue had to be hypnotized and drugged to cope with the situation. Keep an open mind and read the following evidence. Arm yourself with truth, as the situation has now become too ahead on this planet and will be in your face up the coming years. As my friend Rodney McLuhan says, truth stands by itself, all alone. Truth needs to be helped from anything for anyone to be absolute. Some things are facts, and the following as the absolute truth. In 1945, the infamous Project Paperclip was started. This program is run by the British Intelligence American Associations called the OSS, Office of Statistical Services. Project the Paperclip involved bringing the leading Nazi scientists in mind-controlled genetic engineering over technology areas to America and Britain after the Second World War, and the CIA was created 2 years after this. In the American National Security Act of 1947, to handle the massive number of mind-controlling, cloning, and other covert projects that were born from Paperclip project. The NSA is a sinister organization to this. So just checking. I think I'll carry on with that audio. 4:45.
Conscious and the subconscious. And when something's happened in the subconscious and it's not conscious, it's like you kind of therapy and psychologists, that's why they were invented, to dig into that subconscious and bring it just for people who go crazy. And so I can't even imagine what it's like to have all of this going down on the underlying deep subconscious levels, but then in your conscious life, you're sounds like completely unaware and just.
Matt Spires was a super soldier, so what I'm reading, he was part of this too. 1945, infamous Project Paperclip, the program run by British Intelligence. So I quoted that, didn't I? 1947 was the year of the Roswell crash, and when Israel was formed, a year later, 1948, generic bloodline study really was started in Great Britain to locate gifted children to be used for espionage by the intelligence community. And this project was called Project Aval, but changed its name to Project Oak Tree. In the 1950s, Oak Tree was under the command of NSA by the time and was being run from Hartwell Genetics laboratories in Oxfordshire, England. It was connected to all major hospitals in the UK. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Oh my God. So my life was a part of this, is it? Demonic. And I started off praying about Max, the late Max Spires. But what I'm reading in this article, which I never knew about, called Project Oak Tree, was connected to the genetics laboratories in Oxford, England, late 1950s, before I was born. I'd always wondered why they were collecting DNA and why these religious occult I was raised in were doing the family history studies. So this paragraph quotes 1947. My mum wasn't that old, and she was NK altered herself, the kid. So basically they were formed 1948, a generic bloodline study. A generic. Why do you want to have a generic bloodline study that started in Great Britain? To locate gifted children, to be used for espionage by the intelligence community. This was called, and I've quoted what it's called, it's changed its name to Project Oak Tree. In the 1950s, Oak Tree was under command at NSA. This time was being run from the laboratories in Oxfordshire. As I just quote, all connected to major public-funded NHS hospitals in England and was connected to Manchurian program. This author, his experience quotes, I was born into Manchurian, was started in 1972 at the Pismore base. He grew up near Berkshire. I'd always wondered why my brother, ex-army, when he moved near an ex-army military area in England when he left. Project Oak Tree was actually set up to locate the descendants of, who the hell are they? A tribe or Dan, tribe, which is a so-called lost tribe of Israel, the Middle East and Europe, where, did anybody know this? The Middle Eastern people were of white skin, and the descendants are not actually lost, but kept secret. Some people may have heard of the British Israelites, and Gordon Brown is heavily into the school of thought. The tribe of Dan, travelling from Dan, Kurdish, what's it called? Kaish in Hebrew, not just Mt. Hermon, and went up into Greece around the time of this Exodus. Exodus. In Greece they were known as the Spartans. Spartas. From Greece they travelled to France, where they were, I have to spell out the word, Merobingin, priest kings, and other French royal lines. From France they travelled to Scotland, an Ireland, and America. They were known as the, and I have to spell it out, Tuatagans in Ireland and Celtic lands. I come from a Celtic background in Cornwall. Such as the Campbells in Scotland. They were worshippers of the goodness of energy, such as the Astia, and were heavily into animal shamanism, if I pronounced it right, such as a bird and snake symbology. The eagle is one of their symbols, and the eagle on the American coat of arms and the NASA symbol represents the tribe of Dan. The owl is another of a symbol which represents the angel Astriel. This is a very holy bloodline with powerful BIS abilities. The Luciferian religions believe that by abusing children and people of this bloodline, they are directly attacking God. Linking neck. That seems a lot. It does seem a lot to anyone that's going through the target program and can trace back some of their history in their family bloodline, like I can. The Watchers had good and evil amongst them. Archangel Michael is named as a physical watcher in the Middle East in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The battle between the sons of light and sons of darkness is mentioned in this work. This battle still rages today. Some say Project Oak Tree was ultimately looking for the human descendants of the Watchers. We have to ask ourselves, why are the 12 tribes of Israel so important? and who physically seeded these bloodlines? The answers are given by religious institutes of the world, such as they are God's chosen people. We not sacrifice anymore. People ask, why are they called the Watchers? The answer seems because of their ability to project their consciousness out of their body and perform an ancient form of advanced remote viewing. So you've got links to Born into the Project, The River of Love, Modern History, Behavior or Modification, Return of the Watchers, and the Project Manchurian, The Modern History of Behavior Modification. There's links in educateyourself.org. Oh wow. This is best, just really the audio. Whom is aware? 17 playbacks. And then, of course, Max Byers, both the Wizard and K Ultra Trauma-Based Mind Control, and that's what I started to stream off as. And I will just switch off mine, main into other things now. So, it's no coincidence that things happen the way they do. Why would they want to test all these years on this earth? Okay. Goes much deeper. Yeah. Yeah. People, this extract, same situation.